Director Zilax's claws froze over the emergency lockdown button as the human archaeologist pointed at the Academy's most sacred relic and said, "That's my grandmother's coat of arms." The words hung in the climate-controlled air of the predecessor hall like a grenade with the pin pulled. Around them, 200 visiting scholars from 40 species had gone completely silent. The artifact in question, a crystalline tablet measuring 3 meters tall and radiating soft blue luminescence, had been carbon-dated, quantum-verified, and temporally certified as 847,000 years old. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. It was the cornerstone of the Academy's entire collection, the piece that proved the predecessor civilization had reached technological transcendence long before any current species had evolved sentience. "I'm sorry," Zilax managed, his translator struggling with the tightness in his throat. "Could you repeat that?" Dr. Emma Rodriguez, the human archaeologist on cultural exchange from Earth, tilted her head at the tablet with the casual curiosity of someone examining produce at a market. She was young by human standards, early 30s, her personnel file said, with dark hair pulled into what she called a messy bun and wearing the kind of comfortable clothing that made the Academy's other scholars look overdressed. "This symbol here," she pointed at the intricate crest carved into the tablet's surface, a design of interlocking circles surrounding a stylized tree. "That's the Rodriguez family coat of arms. Well, technically, it's a bit simplified, but that's definitely the tree from our crest. We're from Asturias originally, northern Spain, Earth. The tablet had been discovered on Kepler 442b, a planet that had been lifeless for at least 1 million years. Its inscriptions had never been fully translated despite 3 millennia of galactic scholarship. It was supposed to be evidence of a civilization so ancient and advanced that they'd either ascended to a higher plane of existence or seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing into the cosmic dark. It was not supposed to have anything to do with a human family from Spain. "Security," Zilax said quietly into his comm. "Close the predecessor hall, no one in or out, and get me senior chronologist Kaeldra, now." Emma looked at him with mild concern. "Did I say something wrong?" "I mean, it's probably just a coincidence, right? Symbols repeat across cultures all the time. We've got this whole thing about convergent evolution and—" "This artifact," Zilax interrupted, his voice carefully controlled, "predates your species' evolution by hundreds of millennia. It predates most complex life on your planet. The probability of coincidental similarity at this level of specificity is—" "Yeah, okay, when you put it that way, it does sound weird." Emma pulled out her datapad. "Want to see my family genealogy records? My mom's really into that stuff. She's got our line traced back like, I don't know, way too far. It's kind of embarrassing at family reunions when she starts." "Show me." Emma shrugged and pulled up her files. Zilax stared at the screen, his 3 hearts hammering against his thorax in increasingly irregular rhythms. The family tree went back exactly as far as Earth's historical records allowed, about 12,000 years to the beginnings of human civilization. Nothing unusual there, but the crest, the actual Rodriguez family coat of arms, registered with Earth's historical heraldry databases, was nearly identical to the symbol on the 847,000-year-old predecessor artifact. Not similar. Identical. Senior chronologist Kaeldra arrived at a dead run, her breathing apparatus wheezing with exertion. She was the Academy's foremost expert on temporal dating and had personally overseen the verification of every artifact in the predecessor collection. She took one look at Emma's datapad, then at the tablet, and her scales went pale. "That's not possible," she whispered. "That's what I said," Emma replied cheerfully. "But check this out, it gets weirder."
She walked to the next display case where a smaller artifact sat on a rotating pedestal. This one was a metallic disc, 500,000 years old according to the placard, recovered from a predecessor site on Tau Ceti IV. This one has what looks like the Williams family crest. See the lion? That's their thing. And over here, she moved to another case. This looks like it might be a Johnson family marker. They used crossed keys. My college roommate was a Johnson. I've seen enough of their family stuff to recognize it. Kaeldra made a sound like air escaping from a damaged seal. Get Master Timeline Analyst R. Hill down here, and someone contact the Galactic Science Council. We have a situation. Is it really a situation? Emma asked. I mean, yeah, it's weird, but Dr. Rodriguez, Zillax said carefully, the entire framework of galactic history rests on predecessor chronology. If there's any connection between these artifacts and your species, we need to understand what it means. Would you consent to a comprehensive DNA analysis? Emma laughed. Sure, but I'm telling you, my family's been farming in Yorkshire for ever. Well, after they left Spain, there was this whole thing with the Reconquista, and you guys probably don't care about that. Yeah, take whatever samples you need. Within an hour, the predecessor hall had been transformed into a crisis center. Rahil had arrived with his entire temporal analysis team. 3 department heads clustered around scanning equipment that hummed and beeped with increasing urgency. Emma sat on a bench, swinging her legs and occasionally taking photos of artifacts with her personal camera. For the family reunion, she explained when Zillax gave her a questioning look, my mom's going to freak out. The DNA results came back first. Rahil studied them in silence for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he looked up at Zillax with eyes that had seen his entire career's work collapse. The markers are there, he said quietly. Genetic sequences that match the biological traces we've recovered from predecessor sites. It's fragmentary, but there's definitely correlation. That's impossible, Kaeldra said. Humanity's first contact with galactic civilization was 200 years ago. Earth's fossil records show clear evolutionary development. Humans are a young species, barely out of their industrial age when we found them. Emma had stopped swinging her legs. Wait, what do you mean genetic sequences match? Like, you're saying my DNA is similar to stuff from these super ancient aliens? Not similar, Rahil said. Consistent with. Dr. Rodriguez, does your family have any unusual genealogical quirks, genetic markers that don't quite fit standard human patterns? Oh, well, yeah, actually. My mom always jokes that we're part-time traveler or something. We've got this weird thing where our mitochondrial DNA has some sequences that geneticists say shouldn't exist in the patterns they do. But it's just a mutation, right? Every family's got something weird. The Johnsons have that thing with their... She stopped talking as every alien in the room stared at her. What? Zillax was already accessing the Academy's main database, pulling up every predecessor site ever discovered. He overlaid them with Earth's continental positions, adjusted for 850,000 years of plate tectonics and continental drift. They matched, not approximately, not close enough. Perfectly. Predecessor sites lined up exactly with where Earth's continents had been at the time the artifacts were created. Get the council, he said, his voice hollow. Get everyone. We need to understand what this means. Emma stood up, looking genuinely concerned now. Okay, you're all freaking me out a little. What's going on? Kaeldra turned to her, and for the first time since Emma had met the chronologist, she saw something like fear in the alien's expression. Dr. Rodriguez, we've spent 3,000 years studying predecessor civilization. They're the foundation of everything we understand about galactic history. They disappeared 800,000 years ago, leaving behind ruins and artifacts across 200 worlds. We've built our entire timeline of galactic development around them, and you're telling us they had your family's coat of arms. When you put it that way, yeah, I can see why that would be concerning. Emma pulled out her datapad again. Look, let me just call my mom. She knows all this family history stuff way better than I do. Maybe she can... You want to call your mother, Zilax said slowly, about the complete collapse of galactic historical paradigms. I mean, she's got nothing else going on today. It's Tuesday. The video call connected with the casual ease of human technology. A woman who looked like an older version of Emma appeared on screen, surrounded by what appeared to be a kitchen on Earth. Emma! Sweetie! How's the Space Academy? Hey, Mom, quick question. You know all that family history stuff you're always going on about? The really old records that you said came from the family archives? Of course, dear. Why? What exactly did you mean by the family? Like capital F family? Emma's mother's expression shifted subtly. Oh. You found some of the markers, didn't you? I was wondering when that would happen. Every alien in the room leaned closer to the screen. Mrs. Rodriguez, Zilax said carefully, I'm Director Zilax of the Galactic Archaeological Academy. Your daughter has identified what appear to be family crests on artifacts that are hundreds of thousands of years old. We need to understand. Oh yes, the diaspora pieces, yes, those would have the old marks on them. The family left Earth during the Great Forgetting, you see. Most of them went out to the far reaches, helped set up the foundations. We're the descendants of the ones who stayed behind. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Emma broke it. Mom, what the hell are you talking about? Language, Emma. You know your grandmother hates it when you curse. Her mother sighed. I suppose it's time you knew. Honey, our family, and by family, I mean humanity in general, we've been to space before. Long before. About 850,000 years ago, give or take. That's impossible, Kaeldra whispered. Earth's archaeological record shows exactly what we wanted it to show, Emma's mother said gently. That's what the Great Forgetting was, dear. Humanity decided to reset. Start over. We'd spread across the galaxy, built civilizations on hundreds of worlds, reached levels of technology that were approaching transcendence. And then we looked at what we'd become and decided we didn't like it very much. Rahil had sat down heavily on the floor. The predecessors were humans. Well, early-stage humans. We were different then, both genetically and culturally. We'd modified ourselves quite a bit, but yes, essentially, we seeded the galaxy with the building blocks for what would become your civilizations. Set up the basic infrastructure, left markers and tools. And then we went home. Why? Zilax asked. Why would you abandon an entire galactic civilization? Emma's mother smiled sadly. Because we realized we were losing something essential. We'd become so focused on expansion and advancement that we'd forgotten how to be human. So the Council of Families made a choice. We would reset Earth, wipe the records, let humanity develop naturally again from the ground up, give ourselves a chance to do it right the second time. Emma had gone very still. You're telling me that humanity used to rule the galaxy. Rule is a strong word, sweetie. We were more like gardeners. We planted seeds. Your friend's civilizations there? She gestured at the aliens visible behind Emma. They grew from those seeds. We just made sure the soil was ready. The quantum locks on our oldest archives, Kaeldra said suddenly, the ones we've never been able to open. They're keyed to human DNA, aren't they? Probably. The family would have wanted to make sure that if humanity ever came back to space, you'd be able to access the full records, though I imagine it would be quite a shock to your historical frameworks. Mrs. Rodriguez, Zilax said, his voice strained, are you telling me that every civilization in the galaxy exists because ancient humanity engineered the conditions for our development? Not engineered, dear, facilitated. You all developed naturally, on your own merits. We just cleared some obstacles and left some helpful tools lying around. Think of it like a parent teaching a child to ride a bicycle. Eventually, you let go and let them figure it out themselves. Emma was scrolling through her datapad frantically. The family archives you showed me last year, the ones you said were old family records. Those go back how far? About 900,000 years, dear, though the really detailed stuff only starts around the diaspora period. Mom, how old is our family? Well, the Rodriguez line specifically consolidates around 30,000 years ago, but our genetic ancestry traces back to the original diaspora families. We're descended from the Martinez-Rodriguez merger during the reset period. They were primary archivists, which is why we kept so many records. Rahil had pulled up holographic displays and was frantically cross-referencing data. The genetic bottleneck in human development around 70,000 years ago. That's when you finish the reset? That's when we finalized the memory wipe protocols, yes. Took a few tries to get it right without damaging essential cognitive functions. We wanted to forget our technology and history, not our ability to develop new technology and make new history. Zilax felt like his entire understanding of reality was draining away through his feet. The predecessors didn't disappear. They just went home and pretended to be primitive. We didn't pretend, dear. We really were primitive. That was the point. We chose to start over from scratch, let humanity develop naturally. It's been fascinating watching how differently things turned out this time. Much less emphasis on genetic modification, much more on cultural diversity. I think we made the right choice. Emma had her head in her hands. I cannot believe you never mentioned that humanity used to be an ancient galactic civilization. It never came up, sweetie. You were always more interested in alien archaeology than human history. I assumed when you were ready to know, you'd figure it out. Which you did. I'm very proud. Mrs. Rodriguez, Kyldra said, her voice shaking slightly. Do you have any idea how many civilizations have built their entire historical and cultural identity around studying the predecessors? How many religions worship them as gods? How many academic institutions exist solely to analyze their artifacts? Oh dear, yes, I imagine this will cause quite a fuss. You might want to ease into the revelation. Maybe start with the archaeological community and work your way up to the religious groups? Zilax made a decision. We need to access the quantum archives. If they contain comprehensive records of the predecessor period, they do, Emma's mother confirmed. Full technological databases, cultural records, terraforming protocols, everything you'd need to understand what we did and why. Emma, dear, you'll need to authorize access with your genetic signature. It's keyed to family descendants. I need to sit down, Emma said, despite already sitting. Over the next 3 hours, they opened 17 quantum archives that had been locked since before any current galactic civilization had developed writing. The data that poured out rewrote everything. The predecessors had been humans, early diaspora humans, heavily modified and culturally divergent from Earth baseline, but humans nonetheless. They'd spent 50,000 years building infrastructure across the galaxy, terraforming worlds, establishing the basis for quantum communication networks, leaving carefully designed artifacts that would help future civilizations develop faster. And then they'd decided it was all wrong. They'd become too focused on efficiency, too detached from the natural development that made life meaningful. So they'd made the most audacious choice in galactic history. They chose to forget. The Great Forgetting had taken 200 years to implement. Memory wipes, genetic modifications reversed, technology deliberately abandoned. Humanity had walked away from a galactic civilization and returned to Earth to start over as hunter-gatherers. Some families, like Emma's, had kept minimal records. Nothing technological, just genealogy and basic historical facts. Enough so that if humanity ever returned to space, they'd eventually figure it out. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Zilax presented the evidence with hands that still shook slightly. The implications were staggering. Every major civilization in the galaxy had developed on worlds that had been carefully prepared by ancient humans. The quantum communication networks they used were built on predecessor foundations, which meant human foundations. The mathematical principles they thought were universal discoveries had been deliberately left in the archives for them to find. They were living in a galaxy shaped by humanity's first attempt at space civilization. So what do we do with this information? Council Elder Sinara asked. Emma, who'd been invited to attend as a human representative, shrugged. I mean, what do you want to do with it? It's your civilizations. You built them. You developed them. Yeah, humanity laid some groundwork 800,000 years ago, but everything you've achieved is yours. We're not asking for credit. But the historical record will need to be updated, sure. But that's what science is for, right? You learn, new information. You update your models. This is just a really big update. She smiled. And hey, look at it this way. Turns out your ancient mysterious precursors aren't some unknowable alien intelligence. They're just humans who decided to hit the reset button. We're way less intimidating than most predecessor theories suggested. This will change everything, Zilak said. Yeah, probably, but everything changes anyway. This is just one more change. Emma stood up. Look, I need to call my mother back. She's going to want an update, and I should probably write a paper about this. Do you guys have a journal that covers complete historical paradigm shifts? Because I feel like this is going to need its own category. As she walked out of the council chamber, datapad in hand and already messaging her mother, Zilax watched her go and marveled. Humanity had built a galactic civilization, deliberately forgotten it, climbed back up to space travel from scratch, and now treated the revelation of their ancient empire as a moderately interesting historical footnote. They did it again, Arhill said softly beside him. Did what? Started from nothing and reached the stars, and they did it in a fraction of the time it took them the first time. They're getting better at it. Kaeldra was reviewing the family archives on her own datapad. These records suggest humanity is planning to stay in space this time. No second reset. Good, Zilak said. The galaxy is better with them in it. Through the council chamber windows, he could see Earth hanging in the distance, blue and green and utterly unaware that its inhabitants had just been revealed as the architects of galactic civilization. 3 days later, Emma was back in the predecessor hall, now renamed the Human Diaspora Historical Wing, eating a sandwich while catalog drones scanned artifacts under her supervision. She'd been appointed Director of Human Heritage Recovery, a position that came with a significant pay raise and an office that still smelled like paint. Dr. Rodriguez, Zilak said, finding her cross-legged on the floor with her lunch and a datapad full of newly translated inscriptions. The Council has approved full access to all quantum archives for qualified researchers. We estimate it will take approximately 300 years to fully process all the data. Cool. Hey, did you know my ancestors left instruction manuals for terraforming? My mom found them in the family archives. Apparently, we've got actual technical specifications for atmospheric processors. She's thinking of publishing them. That would be helpful. Many colony worlds struggle with terraforming. Right? Turns out, when you forget you built a galactic civilization, you also forget all the useful stuff about how to build galactic civilizations. She took another bite of her sandwich. I'm meeting with the Kepler Terraforming Committee next week. They're very excited. Zilak sat down beside her, a gesture that would have been unthinkably informal just days ago. Do you ever think about what it means? That your species chose to forget everything and start over? Emma considered this. I think it means we're really good at admitting when we've made mistakes, and really bad at doing things halfway. When we decided we didn't like who we'd become, we didn't just tweak things around the edges. We burned it all down and started from scratch. That's very human. And are you glad that you started over? Ask me in another 850,000 years. She grinned. But yeah, I think so. We got to do it all again, make different choices, become different people. And this time we're coming back to space with all of you already here. That's better, I think. It was lonely last time, being the only ones out here. This is more fun. Emma finished her sandwich and stood up, brushing crumbs off her jeans. Anyway, I've got to go verify the Williams family markers on the Tau Ceti artifacts. Apparently, there's like 50 different Williams lines, and my mom's trying to figure out which specific one left these marks. Family genealogy drama never ends, not even across 800,000 years. She walked away, already pulling up her mother's latest message about some newly discovered family connection to an ancient terraforming team. Zilak stayed on the floor, surrounded by artifacts that had been mysteries for millennia and were now revealed as the work of humans who decided their first try at civilization needed a do-over. And somehow, impossibly, that made them more impressive. Not because they'd built a galactic civilization once, but because they'd been willing to give it all up and try again. Human, fuck yeah, indeed.